Welcome to your source for amplitude modulation on ham radio, the AM window.
Of AM stereo, and they came up with temperature modulation format because they knew they could totally outspend and totally outmarket Leonard Kahn, which was like, was him at his house and operating, sort of grassroots. And Motorola bullied him out of the market, which is complete BS. And that's why Sequom ended up being the standard and not Kahn's independent sideband, which I'm actually very vexed about. N1BCG.
Shaka Khan?
Exactly.
That's pretty interesting. I had no idea. But that sounds like a phenomenal idea, and I don't think I've ever listened to AM stereo. I would like to hear the difference.
Was there a lot of records recorded that way?
Well, records were stereo, but you know how stereo records are recorded, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean because we're talking the early '80s, so of course there were lots of stereo recordings, but the idea of having AM stereo, that was fairly new and novel, and that was the problem. There was the very obvious way of doing it, which is independent sideband, and Motorola had to come up with something else that they could enter the market with and then bully Leonard Kahn out of business with.
How broadbanded were they?
Go ahead, Blaine.
I had a 1989 Chevy Blazer, and it had an AM stereo receiver in it. And I'll tell you what, if the signal was strong, it sounded pretty damn good. I haven't had one since. None of the newer radios have it. I don't think any AM stations are broadcasting Sequom stereo AM anymore either.
No. And the question was, how does it sound? We had in order to do AM stereo, especially with vacuum tube transmitters, our station had two Gates BC1G transmitters, and AM stereo was very, and I am sorry to say we were a Sequom station, because at the time Sequom was the predominant, because this is '86. At that point, Motorola's method was more popular, although companies like Sony were coming up with receivers that would automatically jump between the two, so they were multi
16ths or half inch.
And I had really hoped that the Leonard Kahn system would work better, or it would end up being the predominant one, but it wasn't. Anyway, so we were Sequom, whatever. We sold our soul to the devil. But Sequom is extremely delay sensitive, meaning that the time delay between the phase shifting of your carrier and the AM modulation, the left plus right going to the modulator, was super critical, and it was critical throughout the audio spectrum. Like the lows, the mids, and the highs all had to be synced in microseconds. So every Sunday night, I had to take the station off the air and do tests. And this is the long answer to the how did it sound. In order to do this, we had to bypass a lot of the filtering and listen to it off of a modulation monitor, which was full 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. And I remember when we were setting the delays and getting everything lined up, and optimizing the stereo separation, you'd put music on. I swear to you, it sounded better than FM. You say, how can that be? FM's Achilles heel is it can't go above 15 kilohertz because there's a pilot carrier at 19 kilohertz, the thing that turns on the stereo indicator or the stereo light on the older stereos. That those lights or that indication comes on when there's a 19 kilohertz tone transmitted on an FM station, and that's the stereo pilot tone. AM doesn't have that, and so AM didn't have to roll off the highs to protect the stereo pilot tone. So yeah, AM actually had better fidelity in stereo than FM.
Let's do some independent sideband stereo.
quick question, though.
The left panel's getting all torn up by another QSO.
I have a quick question. Let me make sure I got it. Now, how wide are, your normal, or excuse me, your general, AM, FM receiver, say, in your house? Or how much audio bandwidth do they receive? And same with, an AM receiver in your house or in your car. Isn't like an AM receiver plus or minus 3 abouts in your car? It's about 6 kilohertz, maybe 7 at the widest?
No, because you'd think that, but no, it's not supposed to be. In the late 80s, there was a thing called NRSC, which is the National Radio Standards Committee, which came up with a... the background on that is the AM stations before that in the 70s, AM radio manufacturers were starting to really cheap out on the AM portion of AM/FM receivers because, music was all going over to FM. And they're like, oh, let's put all our money into FM and we'll just have some crappy AM receiver and then we'll sell it as an AM/FM stereo. And the AM part started to get really bad. And as a result, the AM broadcasters were starting to really crank up their highs. I mean, they were like going nuts with the high frequencies to the point where they were now starting to interfere, particularly at night, with other AM radio stations on adjacent frequencies. Sounds a lot like 75 meters, doesn't it? So the FCC said, okay, this has got to stop. And they got with the broadcasters and they got with the receiver manufacturers, and it was the arrangement was, all right, let's come up with a frequency response that all broadcasters are going to adhere to, and it ended up being a filter where the FCC said this is the bandwidth you have to stay within. And so it was directed at both the broadcasters and the receiver manufacturers. They went to the broadcasters and they said, all right, all that you do has to fit within this bandwidth, and it cannot go outside. And if you do go outside, if you do exceed this bandwidth, we're going to fine the snot out of you. Is that clear? And the broadcasters were like, yeah, but, and the FCC said, well, wait a minute, we're not done yet. Now we're going to go to the receiver manufacturers. And they went to them and they said, if you have any ambitions of getting your receivers sold in this country, your AM receivers are also going to adhere to this frequency response curve. So we want the broadcasters and we want the receiver manufacturers to use the same bandwidth standards, and that's what the NRSC is. So theoretically, there was a period of time where the broadcasters had to chill and the receiver manufacturers had to step up to the plate, or they weren't allowed to sell their AM receivers in the U.S.
So my question, I didn't hear you answer my question. What is what is the receiver guidelines now for AM receivers, and what is the bandwidth for FM receivers?
The bandwidth it's slightly different because bandwidth for AM, when you're amplitude modulating versus frequency modulating, FM is 150 kilohertz of bandwidth, which is, how do you compare that to AM? 150 kilohertz? The carrier moves, and so you have access to infinite frequency response because you're not creating sidebands by increasing audio frequency. All you do is the signal becomes wider by more modulation, which is signal to noise. Whereas on AM, the higher frequencies actually create a wider bandwidth. So it's you're comparing X and Y axes on a graph. The frequency response of AM receivers is abominable these days because I think that somehow along the line, I don't know when this happened, but I think that receiver manufacturers just simply stopped paying attention to the NRSC or the FCC said, all right, we're not doing this anymore or whatever. So yeah, there are a lot of lousy AM receivers out there now, but there was a period of time where they had to meet that standard. And when they met that standard, the frequency response of AM would have actually surpassed FM, but that was only for a brief period.
Okay, so you would say that they're about plus or minus 4 kilohertz 8 kilohertz total, what you have in your car?
I have no idea. It's whatever you get now. I've heard some great AM receivers. The AM receiver in my 2003 Taurus is fantastic, and yet I've heard some newer car radios where the AM receiver is just horrible. It's like unlistenable.
Gotcha. Oh, cool. Good info. Good to know.
Yeah, KG1T, let me see if I got it.
There's a station on the side.
I was actually kind of proud. My wife in her vehicle, she got it like a year ago, an Infinity SUV. The AM was not working well, and she brought it in, over that. And, they replaced like the whole built-in antenna system and everything. Which would have been expensive, but anyways, guys, I've been listening the whole time. I call in earlier. You guys have a good evening. KG1T.
And thank you for the info.
Yeah, good evening, KG1T. Have a good evening. This is W3MMR, Perry in Southeast PA, right outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah, Perry. Name here is Ron, and I'm in Harvard, Massachusetts. Nothing to do with the university. Clark can tell you all about it. 73. I'm going to go upstairs here. I think dinner's getting close to being ready. KG1T.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we spoke before, Ron. It's been a while, but we have spoke. Take care, Ron. Enjoy dinner. W3MMR. I hear somebody on sideband. We are on AM, so go ahead and punch the AM button.
I'm on sideband with the carrier.
Came in.
Well, now I just switched to sideband to see who that was. Who was that?
The station that was on sideband, where did you go?
I'm K9 FTS in Adams County.
K9 FTS, I believe that's what you said. Yeah, we're on AM. If you want to hit the AM button and come on over.
Hi, Roger.
Yeah, like I said before, in my old 1989 Chevy Blazer, S10 Blazer, I had the AM stereo, and I remember the first time I listened to it, I said, this is cool. It sounded good. Clark, do you think we could, what if you could do something like that with the Flexes or the Anons? They should be able to do that all in the computer itself. You shouldn't even need to have a processor to do that.
Yeah, right, because they can do, if they can do, Flexes do 10-meter FM, right?
Yes.
Oh, all right. So then they have a way of frequency modulating. Yeah. The thing is FM is not cool on certain HF frequencies. I think that's where the kibosh is. But the theory is that yes, you should be able to put a different signal onto FM and the sum signal on AM and get AM stereo.
That would be cool, man. That would be definitely something I'd be interested to trying with the Anon. I've never used FM here on the Anon, but I know it does it. And I just switched transmit profiles. This is one with a little more bottom end. Might be too much. But this is what I ran for a long time, and then I switched it to what I was running earlier for 3 months or so. But I ran this profile for probably 6 months.
I like it.
You like his bottom.
I don't like it.
You don't like it? Is it too much?
How do I use a ham radio? That audio makes your bottom look fat.
Well, thanks, Kevin.
Because it's not natural. It's not you.
Well, thanks, Kevin. I know I have a fat butt. Okay. Well, this is transmit profile number 1. Transmit profile number 1, and this goes back to transmit profile number 2. This is back to where we were earlier, and this is back to the other low, boom, boom in a room, bedroom audio, and now we're back to where I was earlier, to the less big booty audio, W3MMR.
See, I'm like old school, old timey kind of radio guy, especially when it comes to AM. You know, it's the old theater of the mind thing. You don't have to necessarily sound like you do. The whole point of doing radio is to sound the way you want to sound. You know, kind of like what Clark does when he gets on and no one's on. He'll talk to himself. He'll give a little presentation, and people listen. People tune in because they're captivated in what he has to say. And you know, it's a theater of the mind thing. And I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it. That's one of the magical things about radio is how people perceive you through radio.
Did that station from sideband switch over to AM?
Nah, Blaine, that's totally gay. You just gotta sound natural.
You're totally gay, man.
How about amateur AM? I don't think he said he'd double get 5 guys.
He already has.
If you don't sound natural, then, I don't know. You're not comfortable with you.
Well, I tend to notice it
when
somebody's boosted the low end.
There's a certain irony coming from a guy who was on 11 meters who would probably run his microphone so his audio is square wave flat topping.
It jumps out on me.
That was a good double.
I heard both.
I was just saying, I tend to notice that when folks are artificially inflating, especially even on the on-air personalities, it jumps out at me.
I just listen to the way that people sound when there's bad QSB, and the people who aren't pumping unnatural stuff usually hang in there way better.
That's why in my opinion, you can have, multiple profiles. One profile for when you're 40 over, and the one audio profile for when, you're in battle stations.
I just always run it natural. Clean as me.
And honestly, there's really not much of a difference between the two. In this profile, there is... Hold on. I have 4 dB a cut at 50 hertz, okay? And in this profile, I have no cut, and it's right flat at 0 at 50 hertz. I have no boost whatsoever ever in the bottom end, but yeah, like I said, there was actually cut at 50 hertz in the other profile, and this one it's flat at 50.
I prefer the natural look versus the plastic surgery.
Yeah, well, the other problem with it is having that gets tiresome to listen to after a while, if that makes any sense.
No, I get it. It can be fatiguing, just like when somebody's audio is way too bright.
Yep. It's just, fatigue's a great word for it.
Because I don't...
Yet to hear someone who's that bright.
Because I don't, I have. Not here, though, but when guys try to do broadcast quality audio on 11 meters, they have a tendency of cranking up the highs. They have a tendency of EQing by boosting everything and then fighting frequencies. But it's not like I don't think I'm lacking low end, whatsoever. In this profile, just the other one has a little less cut, but yeah, I still don't think that I'm lacking by any means.
Well, I think one of the things that attracts me to AM here on the ham bands is it's just especially this group here, you and Billy and Blaine and others and Clark and everybody. It's just a conversation of a bunch of guys sitting around. You know, it's not the, how are you here today, Perry? It's a fine business day here. The weather was fabulous. I hope you're experiencing the same.
Oh, that's exciting.
Hi, fine business, OM. How's things over at your home, QTH? Hi.
I kind of like that, Brian.
You gotta say the home QTH where I live, OM.
Are you
the weather is absolutely splendid here in the home QTH where I live, OM.
Are you destinated? Well, with this new anti-destination cream, there's no more reason to suffer any longer than you need to.
There is actually a product, I'll have you know, called Desitin. It's for raw baby bottoms.
Don't let that destination go untreated.
Oh, Lord.
If you suffer from leprosy, sudden death, oily discharge, or droopy stools, please discontinue the use of Destigen immediately.
I'm not sure I should key up. Stools.
It's kind of like diarrhea.
There.
Hello, Ken.
It just kind of hangs there and you gotta swat it away with something.
Yes, to be graphic, you're waiting for it to drop off, but it doesn't, and you realize you can't wait all day, so you have to take matters into your own hands.
Get a pair of kitchen scissors and snip it off.
We're past dinner time, right?
No, I'm trying to finish my pot pie. Ken, what's going on, buddy?
KC2UDZ. How you doing, guys?
Carrie's distracted right now. She'd have a fit with us.
Yeah, she's not in this room anyway, so she's good. You're good. You're good. I can't see the damn anything over here. Yeah, you can talk over me if you want. I'm just gonna kind of do what I gotta do here for a second.
This space will rent.
Yeah, that should work. Anyway, that's just quite a conversation. I was catching some of it on the way into the room, so that's interesting.
I would never have suspected you'd use the word interesting.
I'm
well,
still
yeah,
trying
I mean,
to get
I'm
over
not,
the word bright.
I find business. K1KBW.
Hello there!
Hello there! Hey, what's up, Bob?
Not that much. Just got down here and figured I'd throw him a call in here. Now listen, K1KBW.
Yeah, me too. We just finished dinner. And figured I'd get in here for a little bit. Carrie will probably get in here, but she's not going to get in here right away. She's got some stuff to do. She's got to get a point of sale, something going for work, or I'm not sure. But anyway, she'll be back.
She's getting the martini machine ready.
That was funny when I walked in here, man. She had her head resting on the microphone talking to you guys. I was like, okay.
Well, that's good. If she's not going to be in here for a little while longer, we can continue to belch and scratch for a while without any fear of repercussion.
Oh, yeah, let it rip. Let it rip. Don't worry about that. She's busy right now. I'll throw a red flag out if she enters the room. Not really. I'll let you guys get yourselves in trouble, and I can sit back and laugh.
Yeah. Hell of a nice guy you are.
That's what friends are for, man.
A laugh at any cost, right?
Ain't that the truth? That's when you really know somebody likes you, when they mess with you that hard.
Oh, hello to Bill.
That's Bill out there.
Fire.
They used to light me on fire. But man, I tell you what, I miss them all.